Hey there folks, welcome to the Mox Z Gaming channel. I'm thrilled to introduce you to the newest game in town, The Tale of Food. If you're a beginner and looking for the best way to get started, look no further. In today's video, I've got you covered with the ultimate best tier list guide to The Tale of Food, including the F2P Global Best Tier List and Reroll Guide. Is The Tale of Food worth playing? Absolutely! For Pro, the gameplay is super fun with lots of different buff/debuff and strategy, and it has more status effects like Epic 7 and Outer Plane. Plus, the art is amazing. The Tale of Food guarantee an SSR food soul within the first 20 summons. The game offers a lot of PvE content, such as main story with both normal and hard difficulty, resource stages, daily farming content to obtain item 4-star up. There's also a manor system with your own house to decorate, farm, kitchen and restaurant mini games and much more. If you like turn-based RPGs with husbandos. For cons, the dupes are super important. Some characters are unplayable without dupes, but you can grind for universal dupes, which takes a long time. Save your summon currency for the half anniversary and anniversary gacha to get the snow guy and the conductor guy, and there are other limiteds too. So in particular, the tier list doesn't include all the characters. In my opinion, I only list characters that are worth taking time to gain and training. Well, let's talk about S tier first, Sichuan Hotpot. A burst class character. This character is best suited for PvE. It throws out a panda at a single target, dealing 100% damage and absorbing HP equal to 20% of the damage dealt, with a 35% chance to inflict panda mark on them for 2 rounds, which reduces their ATK by 20%. As for its passive skill, at the start of each round, Sichuan Pepper attacks one random enemy target, dealing 30% damage and inflicting panda mark on them for 2 rounds. If the target already has a panda mark, they will take 30% extra damage. Together with Sichuan Pepper, it performs a joint attack against a single target, dealing 300% damage. Each attack against targets inflicted with panda mark restores 1 point of panda energy, and up to 5 points can be stored. Each point of energy can additionally increase damage by 200%. The panda mark decreases ATK by 20%, and it cannot be dispelled. Cured Meat Platter, the only SSR with a 100% hit skill that you must have on your team. His first skill attacks an enemy for 100% damage with a 60% chance to inflict marked for 1 turn, while his passive skill has a 60% chance to extend all debuffs on the enemy by 1 turn with each attack. His ultimate skill deals 310% damage to an enemy with an 85% chance to inflict poison and decreased attack for 2 turns. Peking Duck. An SSR class Shikigami that you absolutely need to have as he's the only one with anti-heal skill. He attacks an enemy for 100% damage with a 40% chance to inflict anti-heal for 1 turn. He also attacks all enemies for 170% with a 25% chance to inflict stun for 1 turn and attacks all enemies for 250% damage with a 55% chance to inflict anti-heal for 3 turns. Gold Chicken Shred. A burst class character who is a must-have for players with double S attack stats. He attacks an enemy for 100% damage and has a 50% chance to inflict anti-heal if increased defense is applied on himself. He also attacks an enemy for 200% damage with a guaranteed critical hit if increased attack is applied on himself. Attacks an enemy for 330% damage, ignoring enemy's defenses if invincible is applied on self. 8 Immortals. As the burst class, he has 3 unique attacks. Firstly, using Lu Dongbin Sword from the scroll, he can deal 100% damage to a single target and has a 50% chance to reduce their ATK by 30% for 2 rounds. Secondly, he takes out a flower basket and throws petals at all enemies, dealing 150% damage, with a 65% chance to increase the cooldown of all skills for 1 round. Lastly, he uses Li Tiquai's gourd from the scroll to pour liquid on a single target, dealing 305% damage plus 15% of the target's max HP and additional damage, but the caster gets poisoned twice for 2 rounds, reducing HP by 5% per round. The poison effect can stack. Lianhua Blood Duck, he's a burst class character with dual S grades on his attack panel, making him the strongest single target DPS in my opinion. He's particularly suitable for PvE and PvP gameplay. His basic attack deals 100% damage and has a 40% chance to apply increased attack on himself for 1 turn. Lianhua Blood Duck, He's a burst class character with dual S grades on his attack panel, making him the strongest single-target DPS in my opinion. He's particularly suitable for PvE and PvP gameplay. His basic attack deals 100% damage and has a 40% chance to apply increased attack on himself for one turn. Next, let's talk about A tier. As a support class character, Candied Ginkgo Nut has several useful skills. Firstly, it can attack a single enemy for 100% damage and has a 30% chance to reduce the cooldown of all its own skills by one turn. Secondly, it can attack all enemies for 105% damage with a 60% chance to remove all buffs, and if successful, inflicts poison on them for one turn. Thirdly, it can restore 20% of its own max health to all allies and purify one debuff. If the purification is successful, it will also grant invincibility to an ally for one turn. Dinghu's Veggie. A support class character. He attacks an enemy for 100% damage and has a 35% chance to grant himself 15% regeneration for one turn. If his health is above 75%, he also inflicts decreased defense on the enemy for one turn. He can apply protection on an ally for 2 turns, taking 50% of the damage dealt to the ally while reducing the damage to 0. He can also attack all enemies for 210% damage, with a 50% chance to inflict suppress for 2 turns. If his health is above 75%, the chance of inflicting suppress increases by an additional 25%. Buddha's Temptation. It's a control class hero applies a stun debuff. When using the first skill, it attacks a single enemy for 80% damage and deals additional damage equal to 3% of their max health. And with the second skill, it attacks all enemies for 220% damage, and there's a 40% chance of inflicting a stun that lasts for one turn. Dezhou Chicken. It's a support class character that can attack a single target for 100% damage. Additionally, you can toss out restraints and ensnare the enemy team in an unescapable trap. This will attack the entire enemy team for 160% damage, with a 30% chance to inflict stun on the enemy for one turn. The light of the coat of arms cuts through the dark night, causing skill cooldown of ally team to reset. Please note that this skill is not affected by any skills that increase or reduce cooldown. Suckling Pig Roast, the class is Burst. He attacks an enemy for 100% damage, and if it's a critical hit, there's a 50% chance to stun the enemy for one turn. He also has a passive skill that restores his health to 100% max and applies increased crit rate on himself for one turn when his health is below 15%. Lastly, he attacks an enemy for 290% damage and deals additional damage equal to 5% of the enemy's max health. Ipin Pot. Belongs to the AoE class. It attacks a single enemy for 100% damage and deals 190% damage to all enemies with a 60% chance of inflicting poison for one turn. It also attacks all enemies for 220% damage with a 60% chance to reset their skill cooldown. Ipin Pot is more suitable for early game PvE and can be replaced by many other characters later. Finally, if you haven't pulled more SSR characters but don't want to reroll, I recommend some SR characters that are suitable for early game. They are given for free at the beginning to encourage team building and to help in progression. Stinky Perch. Belongs to the Sunder class. It can attack an enemy for 100% damage, with a 75% chance of inflicting decreased defense for one turn. It can also attack an enemy for 205% damage, with a 75% chance of inflicting decreased attack for 2 turns. In addition, it can increase the attack of all allies for 2 turns, with a 65% chance to inflict decreased defense on all enemy units. Harbin Roast Pork. A 100% hit class character. They can attack an enemy for 100% damage, with a 30% chance to inflict marked for 2 turns. Their second attack deals 210% damage to an enemy with a 50% chance to inflict silence and marked for 1 turn. Their third attack is an area of effect attack that deals 225% damage to all enemies with a 75% chance to inflict decreased defense for 1 turn. Fooly Chicken, the Dispel class hero, can attack a single enemy for 100% damage and recover 20% of the damage dealt as health. With a 75% chance, Fooly Chicken can attack a single enemy for 200% damage, dispel 1 buff and inflict disable passive on the enemy for 2 turns. Additionally, fully chicken can attack all enemies for 215% damage with a 70% chance to dispel all buffs. Dompa pork. A purify class character who attacks an enemy for 100% damage, with a 50% chance to inflict poison for 1 turn. Additionally, at the start of each round, there's an 80% chance for Dompa pork to purify a debuff from all allies, with each debuff purified restoring 5% max health. Finally, Dompa pork can also attack all enemies for 225% damage with a 30% chance to stun for 1 turn. West Lake Fish. A Sunder class character who attacks enemies for 100% damage, with a 35% chance to inflict poison for 2 turns. Additionally, after attacking, there is a 75% chance to inflict disable passive for 2 turns. Lastly, West Lake Fish can attack an enemy for 360% damage and inflict decreased defense for 2 turns. Chicken Shroom Pot, a taunt class character. When attacking an enemy, there is a 45% chance to apply taunt for 1 turn. Additionally, at the start of each round, there is a 75% chance to apply shield on Chicken Shroom Pot. If attacking all enemies, there is a 70% chance to remove 1 buff from the enemy, and for each buff removed, Chicken Shroom Pot will restore 5% of their max health. And then, let's talk about reroll guide. You could reroll again if you get the character you wanna. Follow my perform, launch the Tale of Food on your device and log in as guest. After that, complete the tutorial part. Then if you can explore this game yourself without a guide, you need to go to the mail first, which is on the top right. After that, in this summon, there are 3 banners available and you can choose which banner you want yourself. If you manage to get the character you want, you can bind an account. If you are unsatisfied with the gacha, tap settings, delete your game data and re-roll again. For gacha rate, SSR characters rate is 2%, 50% chance for rate up, SR characters rate is 12%, R characters rate is 45%, N characters rate is 41%. Make sure to use characters and skills that are easy to use, so you can progress smoothly in the early stages of the game. This is just my opinion, guys. I suggest using the S-tier characters, but ultimately, it's up to you and what you feel comfortable with. In the Tale of Food, you can try out different characters and find the best ones for you. Good luck in your battles. Don't forget to like, follow, and share my channel. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.